Yeah, I think we are capable of tuning our own radio in a way. And we have a decent amount of channels that we're actually able to access while also staying on this planet, which is fascinating. Like a lot of channels and opportunities, depending on your frequency and your internal beliefs about what you're capable of.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master San Qing. And let me just repeat myself. It's Christmas morning. I come down to the tree and look what the universe has brought me, this incredible being, another profound realization of what's possible, which is anything. I'd like to welcome to the podcast today Alexis of Ascension Diaries, who's also a psychic medium. And I'm really grateful to have her in the podcast. Welcome, friend.
It is an honor to meet some new people. So it's great to have the confidence to go out and do podcasts and be on the internet. So it's nice to be here. Let's do this. Let's collab.
Yeah. I really was drawn to your frequency in your exploration of many things, and one your curiosity with the Schumann resonance and the things that go on with that, and sort of your insight. I really like the way that you decipher the information, because there's many people out there that are sort of delving into it, but generally
Yeah,
speaking, what does it really mean? Or why don't we start there, because you've got a great understanding of it.
sure. The topic that's taken my interest the most, that I blog about most consistently, is called the Schumann resonances. It's named after a person who mathematically predicted that this particular frequency was present in our atmosphere of Earth. And it's due to a few factors, like having an atmosphere, having a solid surface. Other planets have their own resonances, and ours is just a specific scale of frequencies. And it's in the extremely low spectrum. So the ELF spectrum, we call it sometimes, which
Mm-hmm.
is tiny beings, tiny noises, really, really slow frequencies. But those minute shifts in amplitude in these frequencies can be shifted by lightning. And lightning is influenced by solar weather and cosmic weather, as well as seasonal shifts. So tracking the seasons, tracking the solar cycle, it allows us to know when the Earth is going to be hit and ringing more with lightning and stimulating these extremely low frequencies of life and pretty much all mammalian brains. So I did schooling for psychology, so I have a background in understanding brain waves and environmental factors for just to predict behavior and increase, I would say, well-being in people and other species as well. All biology basically is involved, and you can do experiments on rats that perfectly apply to humans, little fish, tiny little gnats. The behaviors of all of us and this whole planet are all kind of equally affected in so many ways. So it's pretty easy to study nature and their frequencies, and then also watch humans and their input with our technology and stuff. Like we monitor the extreme frequencies over in Cumiana, Italy. And over there, they have their power to their houses hanging out at around 50 hertz. And it's clearly a present on the data. It's just a factor that we have to basically look over. You kind of become blind to that particular part of the data, but you can see the electrical of people's houses being picked up on this, being picked on this antenna. And it's just an environmental factor that's present, but people don't always think about. But it's in even in the decibel range of small animals and so on. Like they can hear this, so they're tuning it out probably to survive. But there's these factors that have made this study a little bit more in depth, but a little more all-encompassing, I would say, to understand how life functions. But the Schumann resonances or the Earth resonances are like the heartbeat, or I'd more so say the brain waves of the Earth, because of it's more of a spectrum of frequencies, just like how our brains can go through. And our brain waves can exist in the same frequencies. So I can actually tell you with the data that I can watch the behavior of the first 4 Schumann resonances or the Earth resonances, which brain waves are going to be more stimulated on Earth at that time, and what kind of behavior that's going to cause. So a lot of time people are sleeping when this happens and the amplitude just goes up. Could have been a wave of solar wind, more lightning. We're aroused. It's very natural. It's just weather. It's like a normal thing. And people wake up and they go into my blog chat room and they're all chatting and the data is showing up that there's this stimulation or whatever. So there's always data there. Whenever people are really curious about why they're feeling weird, the data's there. And so the study just keeps going because it's so consistent and it's easy to teach. So I don't have to keep up with it. I don't have to babysit the study. It's like much easier to disseminate and share this observation with people, and people who don't need a big science background, like other healers and even more artistic people, parents, kids are picking up on it. I mean, it's stuff that we should be taught, I assume, about just like weather in general. It's just a part of weather. It's like the part of weather we don't get taught, basically. It's just a little extra part. It's fascinating that it's missing, but it's helped so many people, and people with, issues like neurological issues, people with nervous system issues, chronic pain, those things will just flare up during more lightning, more solar wind. So watching all those things and free apps track all this stuff already. If I was an app developer, I'm sure I could have made a lot of money, but I can't. I didn't know how to make the app that gave everybody all the things that I think that they could also use to track. But I would love to make that one day, and just to be of service, because I think I could do a good job and make it really helpful. So for the moms and the like nurses and everybody waking up like, oh, it's a little easier. I'm trying to make that path easier, just like it is to read or see the news or whatever. So that's where I'm at, but it's not imperative. Like that ball is rolling. The collective consciousness has got it. I'm watching it continue rolling. I'm just enjoying the show. More disclosure about space and how to operate in the upper atmosphere and all that stuff is coming out more. And I just share that information and try and keep people laughing about the ascension process and the energies in general, and more sunlight from solar cycle 25 coming up this next year and a half, 2 years. It's just going to be a lot more conscious energy or solar energy available. So I think everyone's going to get much brighter ideas and make bigger leaps and risks in their lives the next 2 years, just because they have that support from the solar system, which is, again, I think just a natural cycle that we can just surf the convenience of in a way. And there's a lot of those cycles that happen, and surfing all those different times, I think we're all kind of getting on the same page to want to do that again. I don't know what happened, how we didn't want to do that for a while culturally, and now there is that wanting. Education got corrupted along the line maybe and that actually worked. I don't know what happened, but I feel silly talking about this subject sometimes because I feel like it's something like telling people water is good for them. It's kind of like such a simple conversation, but some people don't even believe in space now. So that's also a little harder. But yeah, there's more conversations about physics to have, like, and even to prove the shape of the earth. Like, it would disprove all the stuff I'm talking about if the shape of the earth wasn't, a globe and it didn't have an atmosphere and the sun wasn't really that far and it didn't operate the way it did. Everything I'm talking about wouldn't make sense. But I've been able to follow the line, and so far everything makes sense. So I've been keeping up with the study. Like, if I hit a dead end, I would be honest, and I just haven't quite hit a dead end yet. So I'm not satisfied yet, I would say. But I feel like some people in this work have hit dead ends because maybe their equipment is too sensitive to pick up anything worthwhile, because these are such subtle frequencies because of all the human, I would say, toxic electromagnetic whatever that's buzzing around. So that's the one issue I found with people. Some people don't believe in these frequencies because they're so subtle compared to all the other noise. but they're global. So the rest of this noise that you're hearing isn't global as much as this like constant pulse, which is a reaction to like solar wind. So it's not really going anywhere unless the sun literally disappears, and then you have bigger problems. Like it's all good. So I think the system that I've studied is real so far, and I can predict behavior with it. So everything's worked well, but things get weird and data gets lost as well. So it's hard to even prove a lot of it now, because now when the environment starts getting loud, the data and the public resources just start shutting it off or deleting things, hours, days of time. So it's just kind of made this study more of a hobby instead of a logistic, like a literal study, because I can't provide the proper data. Just fine, but take it less serious is okay. I don't need to take it serious.
Now, you mentioned that sort of the loss of the deleting of the data. From what I know, and is very little when it comes to this category, I'm very familiar with waves of energy and frequencies, and I use that every day. But this Schumann resonance specifically, I was under the understanding there's only really one place in the world right now that's transmitting that from Russia. Is that true, or are there other places? Is there one in Italy, maybe Russia or Italy? I'm not sure.
That's right. I have found publicly the Tomsk, Russia University website version.
Mhm.
That's the most popular. And then there's a Cumiana, Italy location that's also tracking the very low frequencies and what they're up to. And I believe there's also maybe there might be a second one in Italy and another one maybe in the Ukraine, but I've lost those links because things have gotten a little bit funny in this lately. Like it's gotten popularized, but then there's even been real reactions from the university last year. I think it was last Father's Day. There was a really big anomaly on their charts, and everyone was freaking out and trying to hack their website to like get a hold of them. And they started freaking out. So I don't know. The drama's continued. Like the Americans are extremely curious.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no official American site that uploads the day of. There's HeartMath. There's heartmath.org. They have 6 locations. One is in California, but it's often not even on or transmitting, and the data's 2 days late. So it's really not helpful for parents who are having their kid have a tantrum in front of them. Like, is it the energies? Like, I have so many parents being like, okay, it's that was a solar flare, so just have some water. Like, you'll get through it. Like, let's take a bath, it's just a solar flare.
I know. I mean, it's interesting. I sort of measure, I've sort of like tapped closer into my brainwaves when I'm performing mediumship or channeling or physical healing. And so I've got a lot of like reference data for myself over the years. And so when I'm presently observing a physical healing, it sort of comes down to I get a brainwave anywhere from 40 hertz up to 400, and that's sort of like that's
gamma.
In most people that's sort of insane in relevance to what's out there. And I mean, if I could find people with better technology, I'm pretty sure I'd be going higher. But it's like what's measured is a physical healing right now. Like I'll see things change, like things reset, whether it may be gangrenous flesh return back to its original state, bones fuse in front of my very eyes, tumors disappear, open gashes seal. I mean, you name it, I've seen it. That charge you're getting right now in excitement is that realization. Yeah, I've been on this journey for 30 years witnessing. I got my spiritual hit of the spiritual crack pipe 30 years ago, witnessing that very thing. That was the first entry level into my journey, was witnessing a physical healing. So it's pretty much my default of realization. But the brainwave state is sort of like that state where the gamma is like the enveloping of the whole consciousness, in my opinion, where you can access all brainwaves at once, affecting change. And then I have a friend of the channel that's a neuroscientist, and he measures psychics and mediums. And there is a low, so sort of like your brain starts to calm down. There's little to no activity when you're doing mediumship and other things, and then you can get a random variable where we're doing all this stuff and there's different activity. So it's not just channeled to one specific area, it's variable. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that stuff. I'm so glad that you're connected and like aware of that, because it's a part of the conversation that is kind of like the second level that I take people with this, because I can see data where the earth is naturally taking us into an amplified gamma brainwave state. Potentially we would may even entrain to that 40 hertz plus frequency, because it's just naturally amplifying in our environment. And I've seen that multiple times, and that's also often again when the data starts to disappear and get taken down. And that's also when people are logging on to look a lot, because it's natural. We're feeling it. I'm training people even to like feel it and then see the evidence that it's happening. And sometimes the evidence is gone, but that's still evidence now. And so instead of using the headgear or whatever to measure your own brainwave state, we're kind of winging it way more. But it would be great if that was more popular for us to all get the headbands and like start measuring our own brainwave shifts while we do meditations and healings. So many people also haven't seen what you've seen, the miraculous healing work. And I believe possibly what you're seeing is even you're able to entrain the space to that natural, that whatever that is, that 40 hertz plus that gamma for our earth, our hologram. That's like the good zone, like the creative, blissful, I don't know, state.
Well, I
In
think, yeah, no, I was going to say, I was just going to say, I think that it goes beyond that, because I really, to see that type of resetting a default, it's more like, I don't think it's even. I mean, we're just using instruments, but I really don't think it's even measurable. Like within
right,
electromagnetic spectrum, I think it's like, it's like God. It's God energy, Tao energy, universe energy, which sort of alludes to the system of understanding within quantum physics that I would attribute it to beyond a scalar wave. It's not
right,
even that. It's like it's it's a whole different ball game, and it's
yeah,
evident in the results, which I think is so important. Is I want to see it. Show me.
yes,
I want to be rocked. I want to. I'm that kind of. My personality loves seeing the evidence, and when all the things that you get involved with it excite me so much, because this is sort of like. So I think you can quote me. You can validate what I'm saying, but it isn't the the resonant frequency of the earth is like 7.6 hertz or something like that, 7.68 or something along those lines. It varies, but it's like an entry level of that. Is that
7.83 they
there
say.
you go. They say 7.83, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, that's sort of like consciously bordering on what a theta, delta, alpha brainwave.
yeah, I think it's between the theta and alpha kind
Yeah.
of state, because 8 hertz is kind of when it shifts.
Hmm.
And it does pop up into 8, like the stuff I measure also will watch behavior of the first 4 Schumann resonances, and I watch them vary. So it is a yearly average or whatever, but I'm curious to see the actual yearly averages over the last like 7-8 years I've been doing this. I wish I could have that raw data just pushed into a computer. Maybe the AI could honestly maybe figure that out for me now. I could maybe ask it to. I don't know what it's actually capable of.
I think
The
you should
like
look into it, because you can create your
now
app. The app that you were looking to do, I think you can literally hit a button and it'll create an
probably
app for you just the way you want it, and poof, you're off to the races.
it would be great, and more people can do that too with their ideas to help us make our lives easier, which is really cool. So good point. I'll take that in account for sure. And the data overall, crunching it would be great. And then I'm seeing trends, but I see it also jump below the Earth's average. I go below 7.83. It goes to like a 7.2 or 4 sometimes, but then I'll see it go up to an 8.08, and it'll like peak there in speed. But of course, the what's the word I want to say, the bouquet of electromagnetic frequencies that is on Earth already, I'm not sure how they're isolating that. Like, I don't get how that would even work. So I take that with a grain of salt for sure, that data. But it is cool to watch the amplitude because that's a little bit easier to catch, a little bit more, and it's easier for people to understand the way that they've made it a spectrograph. It's kind of made it more color coded almost. It's almost like thermo imaging, almost kind of giving you a heat, hot or cold almost impression from the data instead of actually looking at the numbers and whatever and understanding the units. It's going over people's heads, but they're seeing it. They're seeing hot and they're seeing cold days, hot days, cold days. It's all it really takes. People are really getting it, picking it up very fast. Like you said, with their healings and where they're tuning into. I've had many people message me convinced that they and their meditation was the reason why we're seeing some of the data that I'm now seeing on the charts. And they've messaged me about this. They're like, this was me. And I have to be like, well, this is true. Like, I mean, you're right. And as long as you're aware that I'm you too, then we're on the same page. So thanks. Like, I don't know what to say. Good meditation. You rode the wave. Tell me about it. What did you see? Like, I try to engage people more about their own personal experiences because, like, we're all gonna experience it. So what psychedelic experience did you have? It's free psychedelic experience in a lot of this time, like this energy coming in. And the aurora borealis is a part of that conversation. Obviously, it's the physical, visible evidence of this happening too. So that gets people involved, but not everyone lives within range to even physically see it and like have that activation. I've been lucky enough to do that. So it's a no-brainer for me to be connected, I would say, to that whole system. It all makes sense. It's alive. It's cool.
Well, I think it's really great that the earth resonating at that state puts people in calm. So for the audience to realize if you're staying and resonating or just adapting to that resonance, that means that you're in more a chill, alpha, creative sort of chill-like state. Mm-hmm. Now, if you start hitting above 8 hertz, now you're starting to get into beta, high beta, which can be problematic. It's like myopic and ultra hyper focused as opposed to like a gamma wave where you're fully conscious. So it's almost like you have the power, you got your superpowers from your Mario Brothers like arcade game. You got the superpowers when you hit a certain brainwave. The beta, it can be problematic if you add, social environments, extra cup of coffee, whatever. You can turn that into an emotional state that can be problematic. What are your thoughts on that?
And I see it happen on the charts too, where I can tell even because that's like the second Schumann or like the second Schumann resonance, earth resonance. It's basically when the first frequency goes around the earth, hits itself, it doubles, and then it doubles and it doubles. So that's kind of how it's making its own, scale. And so it hits the second time and that goes up to like 14 hertz. And that's getting into the beta brain waves. And then the third time is 21 hertz. So still even higher beta. And the fourth is 24. And then it starts to go up into 30, 40, and then 60. And then it ends. It's like over at 60, I think. That's kind of where it meets its everything else. And there's charts. If you know spectrometry and all this stuff, like you can look it up and see it online. You can see it yourself, the shape of the earth, the math. There's a Wikipedia page. It's not even that difficult.
Isn't the earth flat? I swear it's flat. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think it is. I just personally, from the stuff I've studied, and my husband was in aerospace engineering and they had to do all that math to be able to shoot stuff and get things to space. And that's all involved. And, that's all there. So I don't know. That's what they taught them to. We were just never under the impression it was flat.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's problematic when you start dipping deep into something that could be fear-based. So emotions to me is a catalyst for suggestibility. When you understand this, then you can really start looking at, being the present moment and a true observer rather than being the reactionary humanist that is the expression of your emotions. And that's kind of like fundamentally, I think, where a lot of belief systems start, whether it's a, Taoism or Buddhism or, universism or Godism, whatever you want to put it at. There needs to be a baseline of how are you discerning and affirming what it is that you're experiencing. And I always remind people, your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. That's it, be all or end all. And people get like, whoa. And you could see the authoritarians charge up a little bit, get a little tight, hairs raise up, and they freak out a little bit. It's like, this is the point of conscious collective or conscious awareness, in my opinion. That's my purpose here right now, is to raise people's awareness so that this intuitive knowing becomes their default of their reality. And so, you will come to that point where you're contracting or expanding, and you'll attune yourself, and the resonance is so powerful. I mean, I always tell people, everything is an energy. It has a vibration. It's a frequency, and then you resonate at that, then you obtain whatever it is that you want. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we are capable of tuning our own radio in a way, and we have a decent amount of channels that we're actually able to access while also staying on this planet, which is fascinating. Like, a lot of channels and opportunities depending on your frequency and your internal beliefs about what you're capable of, which is also why I think the big Messiah story of Jesus Christ has been so popular, because the big saying was like, you think I'm great, but you can do this. Like, I'm just an example. Like, woo, like, I don't know. That was the big impression I got from that story, was that motivator. Like, you see the avatars of full creation wandering around, but they're just there to inspire you. If it does inspire you, good. Like, that's literally all you have. Your special internal whatever is going to be inspired by all this random stuff. So just keep following that. But if you are struggling, I would say, to engage or meet the frequency of what you're looking for, that's when science of this gets interesting, because you learn then the manipulation of that energy. So even exercising will increase your frequency. There's lots of stimulants and psychedelics and shamanistic tools that do that for you, even temporarily, just to get you the preview. And then you can mentally match that once you know that space. You've entered that new space with the help of the plant kingdom and so on, like other parts of nature, to kind of give you their perspective temporarily. That comes up a lot. But yeah, tuning your own brain waves. There's even machinery now, they're advertising to do that for you with your neurons and your brain waves, to attune your own brain waves for you, so you aren't hungry or you aren't wanting cigarettes or things like that. The PEMF devices. So there's personal PEMF being now marketed to us, which means that the technology to do that to every single person from a tower is also possible. Like, that's happening. And a conversation that's happened back in the World War I, World War II era, and when they've started communicating via towers and with radio waves and all this. So the ability to unconsciously shift humanity's brain waves and their frequency, like what frequency they're in, is a conversation I want to have more, but it's obviously the scary one to have, because if it's happening, that means that there's some not great force that has done some awful things to probably do that, get into that position and do that to people. So I don't like to engage that conversation, because I can feel the resistance. I don't want people to know the capacity of this technology, I would say. But they also don't want people to know what we're capable of doing against it. So they want it to be scary and ominous and unknown. So we also can't figure out how to get rid of it, I think. So it's making it this censored conversation. So all the stuff that they don't want us to be fully decided on just gets censored. So it's harder for us to make that decision, like hit the gavel as a collective, like, no, we choose this. So if it's censored, then we don't know what we need to be talking about. And I think that's like the only way we're not getting any sort of progress. It's like the last ditch effort is just to censor it. And so we can't organize to talk about this particular thing for a decent amount of time. But that's what I'm seeing. I see it in the data again, it's getting censored. But I see people, being forced into brainwave high beta for like 8 to 24 hours at some points. I'll see the data and people are texting me, I can't sleep. They're up all night long because you can't sleep in high beta. That's just unnatural. And so people are wondering how I'm getting evidence from Russia and it's affecting people in California. And I'm like, we're all under the same roof, you guys. And I have a feeling Russia's even maybe being a little cheeky and giving us this evidence and this data about what's really going on. And we're not even getting that information here. And so I think and that happens with the space station. Like there's the cheeky connection with the Russian and American space and how they're managing space since like the beginning of it all. So I feel and sense all that conversation. I'm not really a part of it, but I'm mature enough to have those discussions, I want to say, with people. And I feel like they're also trying to figure out how to get this popularized safely without people freaking out and disengaging from doing work and stuff, like keeping the cogs moving and whatever. So it's just been a playful approach. Like I've had to be very careful because it's kind of like a very serious conversation is the brainwaves of the planet and all of the populace that they're controlling the moods and the brainwaves of possibly. Because if we really did all get upset, like there's so many of us, it's fascinating to me, honestly, I think, to watch and the attempt of actually managing the mood of all of us because we're actually so strong. Our electromagnetic fields are so strong. Like I think we are the only thing that's truly like a nuclear bomb is the humans. And like we're more powerful than the nuclear bombs in a way because, you know, like you've experienced, you've opened up and seen that infinity energy and you've watched it work. And
Well, yeah, I mean
so,
that's
yeah,
that's what I do, right?
yeah,
The part of the mastery of Taoist alchemy is to harness the 50 trillion cells that you possess with the
right.
0.07 millivolts of electricity and concentrate it so you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. And it's palpable, it's tangible, it's evidence based, and that's where we go from separating the electric from magnetic. You know, I charge electric charges from my body, like zap you and stuff like that. That's exciting, but there's a level of it. Okay, so it will reset your nervous system very quickly. But sometimes, you know, I've come across people through my own training where they get an amplitude that's so high that I've got to put you on a wet rag. You got to stand on top of it with no shoes, and there's a separation between myself and the actual receiver, like maybe something earthbound, like a leaf. And when you touch their physical body, there's a charge. And if it was a direct charge, it could have a detrimental effect on their neurology. So there's this level of degree of mastery that comes in all different forms. I mean, I think it's so funny because a lot of people get into this Kundalini thing. They're big on, I'm having a Kundalini awakening. I think it's sort of a universal thing, and I think it's great. But I would love to have a conversation about what they perceive as a Kundalini awakening and what is really going on, because there's a development of mastery that comes with it, just like the Taoist internal alchemy. And I've only ever come across one or two people. I've traveled a lot training under people that have done this, and I've mastered it myself. But it's like to have a Kundalini awakening, truly that alchemical response is, I see people that have that, and I've only seen two of them. They levitate, they stop their heart, they do crazy stuff that is superhuman, and they're off in some dusty little hut in the middle of a jungle somewhere in Indonesia.
Right.
This is the kind of stuff I've come across, and they just don't even know about the rest of the world. They're just like they're doing their thing, and that really attributes, or for me, gives you validation of, if you are just left with you know yourself, and you are not having a dialogue, it's a monologue, profound things can take place. And so that's where people tend to get caught up, is the monologue sort of scenario. It's they have this sort of back and forth instead of just staying with the monologue and not the dialogue. Does that make sense?
I do. I totally see what you're saying. And it's funny because Indonesia especially gets a lot of the impact of the solar flares and a lot of the volcanic activity and earthquake activity in response of like impacts of the earth. It's like a very alive, breathing, like there's a ton of energy pulsing through there. So it doesn't surprise me that somebody there's like, yeah, I'm levitating on this, because that's where it would be, in my opinion. Like that makes
yeah.
total sense.
That's where I've come across masters that are, and now I've never really, and personally, the only reason I believe I've never got to a levitating state is because it doesn't excite me. What excites me is watching physical flesh heal before it's, that to me excites me, psychic stuff, energy stuff, transfer, creating portals, instantly having people be awakened by infusing and imprinting an object before their very eyes, with their eyes open. They're not in the lotus position, lighting incense, calling their spirits, and they go, holy crap. And I love to do this. It's like, here, take an object, hold it, boof. Oh, shit, I felt this whole thing just come down upon me. It's because I'm just tuned into that resonance, and it will, at a subatomic level, alter the very structure of what it is that you're holding. And it will be evident if you're not subtle to energy. Just start with the weight of it, and you go, whoa,
right.
Whoa. And, this is where it starts. It's like the gateway. And then once I get the gateway, then everyone's like, oh, man, this is wow, I didn't realize this is what I was into. No, of course you are. You want to see change. And that's why I love things like when I'm not sure how deep you go on, Harry Potter, but I think it's awesome, because really the limitation of you in this whole field is your imagination. That's it.
Yes.
The sensory perception is limited by your imagination. That's it. So that means it's like, oh, we got 5 senses, maybe we got a 6th sense. And then I go, okay, you got a 6th sense. How about this? You're thinking a thought, you're speaking it in your mind, and you're hearing it, and there's 3 more senses right there. Yeah. Okay, so hang on a second. You're leveled up. You've got 8. Let's drop in a number 9. It's unlimited, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's also why those guys are having a success in Indonesia, because they don't have the outside opinion. Like you said, it's a monologue, not the dialogue. Like he's engaged and wanted to do that, and it was possible because that's what they focused on and mastered or whatever. We watch everybody do that with something. I mean, if they're lucky, I'll be honest, like if they're lucky, they will want and desire to master something in a lifetime, I feel like, because that's just what gets people up out of bed in the morning, like so many things. And it's just, if you don't have that, that's what I try and help people find, or like allow themselves to engage finally, so they can like get their chi, like flow, get the life force to flow through them, engage the hologram, create it, change it in ways that interest them. I feel like the limitations that have been placed on my mind have been not as bad as I've seen some of my colleagues and friends who grew up in other places. And the intense mind control really that had been put down, I'm seeing quite the effects of it in people who are born in the 90s. I would say they are specifically have a different layer of it that haven't seen in the other generations, watching my mom and my aunts and whatever. Like I know how to read those people, my teachers. I was raised to read those people, and now reading my own cohort, it's extremely variable. Like there's a lot of variability in the capacity even to engage intellectually with concepts. I've noticed it's like there's like a wall that's been built around people's actual intelligence, it feels like. And
oh, I don't think it feels like, I know. It's like, I think it was like the pinnacle moment where that particular decade had a generation of people that looked at things and went, oh my goodness. What's his name? What is his name? Vanilla Ice is such an original composer of incredibly original material. He's profound. He's a prophet. He just recycled something from another generation, another decade back. No one had really seen that, like, the second, rap and all that kind of stuff came into it. People didn't realize, oh my goodness, a lot of the choruses, the beats, the rhythm, it's all been taken from someone else's creativity and then regurgitated into and offered to you. And you're like, oh, I feel lied to. But maybe it was part of what you're speaking of, which is sort of like the experiment to see how much you can lie to someone and see how much deeper you can get into them changing the way they see things, even though you're going, hey, look, Freddie Mercury and David Bowie composed that song 20 years beforehand, and he's just regurgitating it. Oh, no, I'm just hearing Vanilla Ice as the generation of wow. And, who's another one? Kanye West, another great example of holy moly, this guy's amazing. Well, that's, and then we get deeper. As you was talking about programming, so here, what is rap? That's linguistics, right? Really, just people speaking. Singing is the same, but, we use that as a resonance within ancient practices. We sing a lot of the stuff that goes deeper into the alchemy and the magic and things of that nature. But let's just use rap. Let's go back to the old playbook of NLP and getting deep into your unconscious and being eyes open, realizing, hang on a second, the good old days of how people perceive things, like the charge you're getting right now, you're like, you're hitting it on the head right now, because this is not mesmer days where, look into my eyes, watch the, I can hypnotize someone in 3 seconds using just a word. People are like, what? I taught my own kids. I've got 6 kids, 5 of them know how to hypnotize people. I'm in Nevada, so we go down the strip and, we play street magic. And of course, with consent of others. Hey, do you want to feel like what it's like to be in a euphoric state where you're just completely like you're blissed out? They're like, yeah, and sleep. And their friends are like, holy crap. What was the dialogue that came to it? And their friends are videotaping this thing and their friend is out cold standing up. And then next minute, it's like, erase their name. I'm Justin Bieber. Wake them up. I got their wallet and keys in their hand with consent from their friends, and I'm waving it in their face. And they're like, so when are we starting? And their friends are like, oh. And I'm like, we've already started. No, seriously, when are we starting? And I've got their wallet and keys, and I'm waving it in front of their face. And their friends are like, this is real. And I'm like, are you missing something? And they're like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, Justin Bieber. My goodness, what is he doing here? And of course, you understand from being a psychologist, this is all a reverse hallucination, but it's a state of consciousness. I want people to understand that people tap into this. They're masterful. They're not, most people are kind of like, well, you must be gullible. You must, no. You don't understand. And I'm finding a lot more people. There used to be the old, there's only 2% that'll get into a somnambulistic state of deep trance, blah, blah, blah. No, this is like a state that anyone can access. I've never in 30 years had a problem taking someone right there. And it's just showing you're mindful, you're masterful. Now let's apply that. Let's expand on that and show you how to use this power to access consciousness. And so a lot of people they're like totally blown away. And, they're not familiar with how this works. And a lot of failed NLPers, and what do they say? Fail. It means neuro-linguistic programming. A lot of failed NLPers are most of the political spectrum right now. They've had failed attempts, and some of them have even gone as far as taking the most highest point of governing within this country are very failed NLPers. And so they're always manipulating. If you listen to a politician, they're pacing and leading. They're pacing and leading. I would like to talk to you today about this thing that is going on. And the more that you listen to my pace, I will tap into your very unconscious and feed the fear that is necessary for you to listen to my every word. And you just go, oh my goodness,
then you're hooked.
It's so offensive. It's offensive to I have a disdain. Personality, guys, caveat, disclosure. I'm just going to tell you, I have a problem with people that do that.
Yeah.
And politicians. And they do it. And when I show people that, they go, holy crap. You can literally go into what's an environment? Go to Starbucks, right? And people
Right.
are like, okay, sit down at Starbucks, find someone that you want to puppeteer, and through your own mirror neurons, you will literally puppeteer this individual by getting into a pacing and leading state. You are mimicking their respiration.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, very quickly, all of a sudden, you start moving your arm, they start moving their arm. They're not even aware of it. They're reading their book, they're doing whatever. And you're like, oh, holy shit, this is real. Yes, it's very real. This is how quickly we can attune to what we've been talking this whole time about, which is a resonance, a frequency, a vibration, an energy. And people just don't get it. I mean, I use this a lot with my kids because it'll be like daddy's story time. And they're like, oh no, I don't want daddy's story time. But he always does this all the time. And I'm like, what are you talking about? All I want you to do is listen to my voice and sleep. And all of them go to bed because I've already tapped into the respiration of the youngest one. I've linked all of them
Right.
consciously, and the respiration's done inside of 10 seconds. They know they never got a story time. They're deep asleep, and daddy goes back to Netflix. But,
Yes.
hey, this is what we're speaking of. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, it's fantastic that you brought in your actual experience with hypnosis and how it is basically about entraining someone's subconscious biology, really
Hmm.
purposefully matching their biology and then basically clicking into their aura and
Mhm.
tapping right into their channel and then having influence over it if they aren't actively like doing something. So that skill that you can do and demonstrate, and now people literally will be able to copy this because you taught them enough in just
Yeah.
that information.
Yep.
That awareness has been used and studied for so long. And I went to school to study what these people were writing books about hundreds of years ago, literally about human behavior, hypnotizing their donkeys. Like people have been doing it with the land, um, livestock, all this stuff. There's
Yeah.
tons of little tricks like that. And
I mean, that's how you
the,
get them into. I'm going to record this, but I can go into a flock of whatever,
oh,
goats,
yes. Okay.
whatever,
Yeah.
and I
Do
can
it.
literally cultivate a brainwave and put them all to sleep. And people are like, "What the fuck? Holy shit!" Because there's not an obstruction. You're not dealing with a human being that's got a variable of many things. They're literally these sentient beings of the present moment. So they're going to work with the resonance of that frequency, that wave, and they're going to attune to it. And you're like, holy crap, they're literally falling asleep. Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, right?
I mean, yeah, to even fathom one human able to handle a flock of any of these huge livestock, really, it's kind of like, how are you even doing that? And it's because they cling on to our brain waves and it's so easy. And I was recently at a festival during the eclipse in Texas, and I was nervous, obviously, to go in and mix with all these strangers and sense and see like the variety of stress levels and blah, blah, blah. But it was easy once we got there because everyone had the common goal. And as soon as that locked in, it was like silence again. I could be in my own space because everyone was moving and doing the same things. They all had the same goal. We all had the same boundaries, and it was so simple, but there was thousands of strangers there amongst us, but all packed in, and everything was fine and there was no problems. And it just reminded me about how capable we are in doing that. And that's a strength of humanity and of our mutual brains on earth. We can all get on the same page. And in a way, during the eclipse, another grand example about when that can happen biologically. Everyone in the totality was on the same page at that moment. All the bugs, the plants, everybody thought they were getting ready for bed or whatever. They all just were having those twilight moments, all of nature. And it was so funny. Like it was just, the schedule just goes so easily, I would say. Even when things kind of switch up a little bit, adjustments are made. We're so adaptable. and flexible. And the neuroplasticity is something talked about in the schooling, but isn't talked about out, I would say. All of your neurons able to repair themselves and become more sensitive and attuned to things in the environment that you're interested in or skills you're interested in. So my personal skills, psychic mediumship, I focus my energy and have attuned my sensitivities to be of service in that realm. Like you said, if I wanted to focus my energies more on watching bones fuse back together, which is something I totally believe I could do, I would. And I have done it to my own face, but I don't have the pictures for it. So it was like, I have my own examples, but healing and doing hands-on healing with others is something that I really enjoy as well and want to do more at these events and lay hands on people more and kind of get to that other layer of that intimacy or that human healing frequency, like that mutual human healing frequency, and kind of getting back into that mode or that groundedness in the bodies. Because we're all we can get our minds on the same page, but the bodies is a little harder. And that's where a lot of the like work is, I would say, to heal, reconnect people, kind of get them more like a healthier mind and healthier ideas if their bodies are a little more aligned and, I want to say, regarded and recognized and given that recognition. I would say I think the physical body is going to be a major part of the next part of the study, and my efforts is more in person stuff and healings in person and hands-on and shifting and in training resonance in person. That's the best part. And like, I like to meet people in the community who have different skills and get in their aura, just so I know, like, it'll immediately transfer that information. So I can work on it later, but I can grab and collect it now. And I don't think a lot of people think that way yet, but I went into the world and into this community with that in mind. Like, oh, you said you're in space. I'm going to go there and I'm going to get close to you. And then I will gather all of your space travels. And
see, that's the secret sauce right there. She's revealing a few things.
it is.
Have you ever seen the TV show Vampire Diaries?
Yes, actually, I did watch that a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. We need to take this at face value, but I'm Kai from Vampire Diaries, which basically just absorb everything at once. It takes me about a second, and if I'm in the vicinity of the resonance, it's mine. But that's available to anybody.
Yes.
And people need to understand this. This is the level of magnitude that we're talking about. Is replicated immediately, just as Alexis is saying.
There's a lot out there, and people are advertising a lot of things. Like, we're so open, communicative. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what are your thoughts on that? So this is interesting. So I've just finished. I cultivated and print a geometry set that's made up of 18 stones that are variable in elements. And so people will acquire that, and it has an energy plate with it. So what you do is you receive it from me, you open it up, you set up the stones in a circle, which is a perfect geometry, and then in the middle you put the circular plate, and what happens is, voila, there is an instant portal of divine energy right there. And so people are like, how the hell is this even possible? It's like, this is crazy. And what happens is, I like to attune it to the individual, but it's like, if you just put it in an environment, your Wi-Fi won't work. It will just literally shut stuff off because it's such an incredible resonance. So you have to regulate it, imprint it to the way that you want it to, so it won't have an interference with this lower frequency stuff that creates problems. Example, why don't you share with the audience what a 5G will do, if not sort of like commandeered in a way that doesn't sort of permeate your physical flesh and ultimately commandeer the very state you're in?
Yeah, this is a good question, because the 5G argument was really another sign that there was a war going on over the technology, over our brains, because during the Huawei, I think how you say the Huawei company in China was trying to install their version of this technology here. And then satellites started falling from the sky over California and the western seaboard, basically, at that same time. And then I think Trump was also in office then, and then they started installing their own version. So it became very obvious because satellites were just falling from the sky, and they were like, "We're not taking this new technology." So there was a battle, and so I believe that whatever it is that we are actually using is not even the truth. And now that they have Starlink and all the stuff happening further out, I think a lot of it's all the infrastructure. Half of it's probably just for show, while half of it's in almost finished developing to the full replacement. So I'm not even sure what frequency bandwidths we're actually dealing with anymore. But I've noticed the shifts. Like I've been paying attention. The news articles will come out usually the day of when they're doing it, but they'll schedule something a week out, but it's actually that day most of the time when the articles come out. And that's usually the game. It's like they need permission and they want to do things fast. So they'll say something's in the future, but if you read the article and went, okay, and approved of that, then it's happening now. Like it's that because that time's not real. Exactly. So the extremely low and tight amplitude frequencies of the 5G bandwidth basically can cut through us like a knife, and it's like being microwaved a lot of the time. A lot of the stuff is like microwaves, and if you have a microwave, don't use it. Like if you have a radio in your house, don't use that. Like get one of those EMF readers and check most of your tech. A lot of it, especially anything older than the last few years, is giving off way more than you think. And if you're sitting in front of it like a desk at work, I had somebody have a clock radio in front of them at work, and they were getting radiated so much. We got rid of it and they stopped getting sick right away. I replaced a woman from a store that died of cancer, and I had to move my desk because I'm pretty sure where she was sitting was why she died of cancer, because they're right next to the generator of like the whole building. Like she was in a terrible place, but no one thinks about that stuff. They don't think about the electromagnetic fog. They feel it, but they don't get it. Like the woman I helped and she didn't die. She got pregnant like a few weeks later, and she'd been trying for a very long time. Like we just moved her a little bit away from some crappy EMF source, and like she got so much better so quickly. So it's fast, the impact it has on us too, and it'll radiate us down quickly. It's if you think about of yourself as literally a flame of light, like you can get even sound can snuff you out and make you smaller. Like it's our environment is so important. So I think people who get more and more into this get frustrated because they realize they have to move. They have to move out of the cities and where they're living. And
well, this is why the geometry is so powerful, and that's why I infuse these sort of like, I guess you would call them, I'm going to call them portals. Some of these people are claiming to have created technology where they're harnessing, chi. And if you use this, we're going to create an environment. I'm of the ilk of show me.
yeah,
If you use the geometry that I give people, it's instant. It's like you lay it down and you're like, holy shit, this has changed the whole environment that I'm in. And it's evidence based. You can experience it from a physicality perspective, and then all of a sudden the flow of energy in your house has changed instantly. And so you could use this in an environment where soil sucks and you can't grow anything. You drop this down and instantly you can start growing basically anything in the soil itself. And that's all energy, all of it's energy. So, I'm of the understanding through my own, cultivational practices, the Taoist stuff, this magic is very real. And so you just apply it in 2024, and you use that the infrastructure of understanding how to build what you consider a power center, a power point within your environment that can literally transmit this and alter everything and ascertain it. Like body dowsing is a lost art form, and most people use dowsing to a degree, but I'm talking about when I train someone in that, and from a Taoist perspective, you're able to ascertain all the vortices, all the power centers, all the ley lines, and then you can put it all together in a picture that works, so you are at the highest resonance and you
Right.
create it in your environment. So, I mean, most people don't do that anymore when they come to like religious centers.
No.
This has been going on for thousands of years, ladies and gentlemen. That means that there was a specific mastery of this skill, and most of the time it would come from a Taoist alchemist, and
Right.
they would find the right environment, and then you would lay your temple on top of that. Or if it's a church or a place of worship, whatever it is. This doesn't happen anymore. They've lost their way. What are your thoughts on that?
I do wonder about that. Like if they're still doing it in modern times, but with technology and not as precise, maybe. Or like what are their explanations for the modern changes and how they're doing things? Because I know there's probably one. I know there's probably some clever explanation, like, well, we don't have to do it like this anymore because the grid moved and it looks like this now, or we made the grid actually, so we got a fake one so we can make it whatever shape we want, or those sort of things, those conversations. But as I am born a woman, most of the time those conversations aren't being offered to me. It's more like I'm overhearing them, like, oh yeah. Oh, that's great. I love being a woman. Being born a woman, I can tell, has been a lucky thing, because it's like I could tell people don't take me as seriously, but I'm listening. And I really am available and able to understand what's going on. And I think that I have made myself public in a way to kind of show how we think and react to information to women at this time. Because I think there is a block a little bit on how to even communicate knowledge to us or share. And there's like a fear that we're going to like ruin it because we
You
think
understand? You
more
understand?
abstract.
You understand why, right?
Oh, I know for one way that the women have the genetic ability to repair themselves, so it's harder to program us. So that's one way that's one thing I know about it.
Right. Like from more esoteric, sort of religious, deeper nature of how things are being created. The truth is, this is
Yeah.
the right
Okay.
within Taoism, within things like Masonry.
Right.
I'm going to say garbage. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I get it.
The truth is, if you listen to the Tao, we are looking for the Wu Ji, which is the stillness between the breath in, the breath out, the yin and yang.
Right.
That Wu Ji is the mother of all things, the Tao. So let me repeat myself one more time. The mother of all things. I didn't say the Father. I didn't say the Holy Spirit or the Ghost. I said the mother.
Right.
So within Taoism, that is the core center of understanding. We use specific rituals, and we have scepters that we use that are shaped in the form of a uterus, because we understand the epicenter of all creation comes from one place. And so people get twisted, and most people are removed from this understanding of information, yet all knowing, all powerful. And so within Taoism, I get a lot of students that are women, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I actually found someone that can teach me all this stuff at an epic level of understanding, and I'm not being controlled by some megalomaniac that's high testosterone that wants to just microdose beyond a few bits and pieces, but literally put you in the corner of the room and pretend that you don't exist because you're harnessing the answer to all things." The highest number within Taoism is 9, right?
Yes.
So our cycle is 9. Isn't it coincidental that it takes 9 months to create life? Oh,
It's a good number.
no such thing, right? So there's so many layers where your intuitive understanding of why you're potentially looking at environments where women are being removed from the conversation is for the very understanding that you guys have the secret source to all things. It's not a delusion. It's like that's the truth. And we understand it through the mechanisms of creation within magic, how powerful and how deep that goes. And if you truly are, you are me, I am you,
Right.
there is zero barriers. That's how I work. The student is the teacher is the student. The second you lose sight of that, then you're delusional.
Yeah. And you're not having any fun, I feel like, either at that point.
Right.
You
Right.
lose the pleasure of the experience in a way. Like, and it's lonely.
Right. Right.
You're all of a sudden you're alone. You're like, what was the
Right.
point of that? Look
But
at
there,
all the stuff you have. You know, you're all by yourself.
well, because of that is this sort of look over here, look over there. I'm not going to share the truth with you, and it's so crazy that
Mhm.
people think this way instead of
Yes,
just embodying everything as a whole. And the gift is your offering. That means you give, you receive.
right.
It's what some psychologists would call a psychodynamic loop. Rapport in of itself, create
Yes.
rapport and you receive. And so that comes right back to a resonance, a frequency.
Yeah.
And there is this level within certain systems, all systems, most of them, where they want to limit
Yeah.
the conscious collective. It's about power, and it's not about the
Yes.
raising of the conscious collective, which I have a problem with. And my teachers, which I have over 171 teachers that I
Wow.
channel, and so I channel all these teachers. They're all in the same collective. They're like, let it loose, let it ride. It's the time for everyone to share everything. And that sentiment has never changed. But you have megalomaniacs through history that have been very reserved at releasing
Scared.
this information. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, my teachers, Lao-Tzu, the first time I channeled Lao-Tzu, which is
Wow.
he's
Nice.
yeah. And so he's my teacher. He's with me right now. He's with me at all times. I get pure source information from him. And so
Sweet.
the old school channeling is like this. Like I had a guy on my channel, and we went over this because he'd spent a lot of time pursuing stuff around the world, training under, masters.
Mhm.
And when you channel something, a lot of people are in it, especially right now today. I love the fact, oh my goodness, I got a vision. I'm doing this. I'm channeling the Palladians. I'm channeling God. I'm doing. I think it's all great. I think it's amazing, and it should be validated by what are you really obtaining within this conscious moment, and how could that be relevant to everything around you? And so, if you can validate it, then you start to really get into a groove. If it becomes sort of like, I had a premonition of the future, and you can never really validate any of it, it should be something that could potentially be problematic. And maybe you take a moment to recalibrate your tools so that you can be more on point, so that you keep getting an answer that is now, because a lot of people are
Right.
just off by a few inches here or there. It's not that they're delusional. It's just they need to refine their tools. But the old school channeling, and when I did this 30 years ago, what we
Right.
used to do is put a flame under your hand and you just hold it there. And if it doesn't burn the flesh, then you are in the presence of a higher resonance entity that's consuming and absorbing what your physical tuning fork is. That's how you channel. That's
Whoa.
like a direct. And this guy was real old school. He had his special knife that he'd run over your flesh. If it cut, then oh, no, you're not one of those. And so it's kind of a weird, interesting, and the
Wow.
evolution now. Yeah, that's the old school way. And so when you're in it, you'll know you're getting the information, but you also know that your physical body is now being resonating at a different, not of this world, and it will be transmuted through your physical flesh. You'll see it. You'll be like,
Yes.
oh, holy crap. I can't even believe this. And most likely when people are channeling, I would suggest that you have someone else do it rather than you trying to commandeer, being the vehicle and vessel of this information and then attempting to, you know, consciously do this. So it's an interesting way, but a lot of people are sort of going through this and they're awakening to things.
Yeah.
And then I love helping people find that groove, and then it's about really refining it so it makes sense to you, and it makes sense in an experiential way of information that's validating the very experience you're having, not being put in a category where you're in doubt and you continue having this
Right.
monologue. And that's where a lot of people get. And there needs to be more communities where people are supporting each other to help refine this very state of consciousness, in my opinion.
Yeah. I see progress like leaps and bounds as soon as you start working together in groups and going to conferences where you get a few days of that is just a taste of it. And being like staying on a piece of land with somebody for like a month, 2 months, a summer vacation, just like a place where everyone summer vacations together and works on their skills. Like it wouldn't take very long to get some extreme, I would say probably some very interesting output from the people who would want to do that. And I'm very interested in engaging that. Like, I think, like you were saying, it is the time to share and gather and teach our skills and collaborate. And I'm looking forward to that opportunity. I feel like it's supposed to happen. I'm going to have a space where we can do this. I have lots of people to work with in this. A lot of them live in Sedona. We've lived nearby and in Sedona for the last like 3-4 years.
Well,
So
my dear friend, we're around the corner. I'm in Nevada. I have an
yeah,
actual retreat center. I got 3 acres where I do workshops all the time.
there you
So
go.
this happens to be what an interesting coincidence. I'm also putting together an expo. It'll be later
Good.
here in Vegas, where I'm
Perfect.
getting all the powerhouses like yourself together, and I'm starting to accumulate a large Rolodex of these incredible beings. And
Yeah, it's
we
pretty easy. Yeah.
and like raise it and have people's minds blown, because
Yeah.
you can go to some of these events and there's no juice there at all. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm selling this sacred geometry triangle, and people are walking around with it on their head, and I'm like, you're going to have more of a charge if you walk into that wall and hit your head than you
Yeah.
are with what is presently sitting on your head right now. And this has everything to do with the attention, intention, and the resonance of the person that has created whatever
Right.
it is that you're in the presence of. And so it's crazy how some of these events, it's low watt stuff. And you walk
It's
and you're like,
bad.
hang on. I thought everyone's highly conscious right now. Why is it so low watt? And they're like, this is mine. And if you want to know the power, the secret Jedi power, you must pay for admission. And I'm like, listen, I don't have a problem with that. Everyone's got to make the cheddar, make the cheese, whatever, but don't act like this is so unobtainable. Trust me, if I sit here long enough, whatever it is, I'm going to resonate with it, and it'll be like downloading, the pirate version of iTunes. It's going to
Yes.
happen. So it's like either share with people, get your payday, and keep awakening more, or please stop attempting to be part of the conversation that is not. I'm just saying.
I agree. It's bizarre in a way. And I did start going to psychic fairs and stuff before it was popular on the internet. I
Hmm.
hit that right before, where half the psychics were like chain smoking cigarettes and like morbidly obese. And you're just like, what?
I'm not
Like,
laughing. Hang on, I want the audience to know I'm not laughing at that.
I know
It's a stereotype, right?
it is, but half of them also, the ones cut that group in half, and half of them are really still very good. And then the other half is just getting by. And I was surprised. I am watching it slowly get better, like you said, but it still has a ways to go. And the standard definitely needs to go up. So I'm glad that you're aware of that. You want to do that. I
Yeah,
have we've done an event in Sedona back in 2021. It went decently well. It was our attempt at doing the same thing. And
yeah,
so, but that momentum, we want to keep it going. So like anywhere nearby, we'll be there. So I'd love
yeah.
to go check it out. We really want to go to Nevada and go to Vegas again and check it out
Well, I will
again,
get
since
you
they've
out
done.
into the temple, because I have a
There you
Dalai
go.
temple here, and I'll take
Perfect.
you through the whole thing. Go out into the natural form pyramids that I love getting people high as a kite on. I mean,
Perfect.
it's crazy.
That's way more interesting than the other stuff, like the sales of random things. Like I love it, but I want to engage more, engage deeper with people and do even more retreats and stuff. Like if you've done even the more intensive of retreats, and it gives people the time to actually think and process and ask questions, you know, of the lead and of the space they're in. And sometimes I notice that events just push people through so fast they didn't even engage Earth in that spot that they moved to and what she's trying to show them there. And I think like that. So the work I do is just like I get to monitor the whole planet. And then I've recently, just this year, followed like all of the news agencies of all the English speaking places that I could find. And I'm doing that more on social media just to see what everybody wants to talk about, what every news stories that flood in, what are the themes that come through, because I'm noticing grander themes in the culture and I'm able to stay on top of it. So,
Well, have you noticed this? Like, Lao Tzu is a no BS type of like
right.
energy. So
Mm-hmm.
when people call, when I challenge, I mean, I'm always in
Right.
conflict with him, but like when I challenge him directly, people are always like, "Oh, what's going on with 2024? What's happening?" And this was at the beginning of the conversation at the beginning of this year, and he's like, "Listen, okay, imagine you're like a grain of sand.
Yeah.
Asking the beach, what are we doing today?" And they're like, "Whoa. Now fall back into the beach and be realized."
Yes.
And people are like, "Holy moly." And so I get this, and he's very clear on this. So when he normally does a week to week sort of like summary. So he'll
Mm-hmm.
give people their high point of where the energy is for that week, and then what the element is, and how the sun is interacting with the earth and the moon. And that's how he gives you the summary of where you're going to get the peak emotional state and how to embody that and get the most out of that week. And so he
Totally.
talks like the end because Taoists have had an affinity with the universe. That's really the core of our training. And so when you start mastering those energies, doesn't get in. He doesn't like the semantics of human, a narcissistic sort of like it's all about me. It's like no, no. And so it's quite funny when he interacts, but the message is really powerful. People are like, holy crap,
Yeah.
and that day was super high energy, and I was enveloped in love, and it opened me up. And just as he said, I'm like, hey, listen, it's just giving you where the patterns of the flow of the energy. And so, for example, this month he's just basically used it like a zigzag. There's a high day and a low, one after the other, and it will continue through the whole month of April. And so it just so happened, it's like, hang on, well, there was a low on the 8th, but it wasn't problematic because he didn't mention that was going to be an eventful day. It was the 9th when all of a sudden all the love came in and it was really embodied and grounding, and people like, holy moly, I was expecting the world to be destroyed and blown up and all the rest. I'm like, I'm really sorry to disappoint you, but if you want a bigger answer, and it's sort of interesting how you mentioned that, Alexis, at the beginning, the this year and next year, it's
Right.
high sun, it's high energy. That means that you're going to see more positive, euphoric things go on, even with the evidence where if you want to waste your time putting your ear to media and news media and itself saying the death and destruction, the financial collapse, the this, the that, the apocalypse, the heads on a stick, people being killed in the streets, all that is just noise. And they're attempting to create your attention because the universe is already showing exactly what's taken place, and people are just getting more conscious, more euphoric, more happy, more love, more joy. And so, hang on, that doesn't go with the narrative. Well, don't waste your time with news media. They're barely hanging on by the skin of their teeth. They have nothing left. The social
They're
media.
having to report all the good news because the good news is trending. Like there is so many good things to talk about.
Yeah. So, are you getting a similar sort of message?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's definitely good news. Is it's been the good news. It's like that's the message. Like spread the good news, and I'm like, okay, like this is here. It's here. We did it. Like it's just gonna keep getting better. So I'm happy about that. I got that message this year. It was like, okay, it's time to do the good news. It's on. Like we're here. And I was like, okay, great. So just keep riding that curve, and I'm gonna enjoy and see if that's true. Like if it is the good news, and we are gonna really start seeing it, more miracles are gonna show up. The news stories are gonna be interestingly optimistic at points. Like we literally just got legal citizenship, I believe, for whales for in the Maori and Polynesian sort of groups. So how people are treating the oceans is going to be, it's legally changing because I mean, gosh, next year you could be sued by a whale. I don't know. So things are changing, the power dynamic is coming back. We're recognizing other sentient beings on Earth and such, and that's good. So
Yeah, it doesn't it's not aligning with this death and destruction. I did
right.
come across on social media this it was really tragic. I'm going to use that word because this woman was an astrologist and she
Right.
no, she
Yes, the
used
psycho.
right?
Yeah.
And she just went nuts, killed her boyfriend, killed one of her daughters, and then killed herself. And like, this is what you call a hijacking. Now,
Yeah, that's not a human.
that's not, and I mean, I've been dealing with exorcisms and spirits for 30 years. Yeah,
Totally.
you always remember this for the audience. This is a construct of your reality. So you are transmuting this into your very state. So if you believe in these type of entities, they will find you, and
Yeah.
so the universe is going to serve up whatever you ask for. So you can construct a really deep layer in a relationship with entities that can go as deep as you want or as high as you want. It depends on you. You're the tuning fork. So
Right.
that's the one thing that I've been very clear on for all these years. And so sometimes I'll have fire sales on, so-called ominous, energies, whether it's in a house, whether it's a person, whatever. And, the biggest solution to all of this, and it's always the same resounding realization, is love. And then people are like, well, that sounds like a hallmark. Yes, it is initially a hallmark, sort of like throwaway until otherwise noted, because you're subject to your version of that. So initially, people break in to that threshold of love with, well, my version of love is razor blades and bunny rabbits, and your version is unicorns and rainbows. Now, once you up your resonance,
Right.
all of a sudden it becomes the universal one that we speak of, that people say, all you got to do is show them love. Well, there is a moment when you come to that realization and becomes a default, and you're being able to hold that. And that's what it is. It's being able to hold it and expand yourself. And there will be that moment where you become selfless. And
Mm.
everyone's had that glimpse of being selfless and being in tune with all things. And you just hold it longer, and all of a sudden it becomes your default. It becomes your reality. And then it's sort of like ripples in that sort of sense of the word. But initially, yes, love will be a subjective thing. It's not going to be, if you haven't handled your business from a mental emotional state, you're going to have a very different viewpoint than a universal one that we speak of, that's of the highest resonance. And there's never a wrong or a right way to start. You're just starting. It's like, okay, I'm aware of this. Okay, let me see where I want to go with it. And oh my goodness, this is like effortless. It's almost like I'm on autopilot. Yeah,
Right.
that's how it should be. And then people are asking you, well, how are you today? And it's like, it's good to be me. That's exactly how it should be, which is like being in the present moment. What are your thoughts on that?
I think excellent points. I totally agree. And it's also kind of like walking around in a forest. It is nice. It loves you. It's at that frequency of mutual love, happiness. So that helps kind of remind you. But like I said too, sh- there's frequencies and experiences that chemically and frequency wise that we have not been able to reach, I think, naturally, because of the areas of some places are pushing that down. And some people haven't been able to break out and feel their own serotonin literally their whole lives because of the state that they've been kept in. So I would say traveling to nature and getting out of the cities and stuff to engage that frequency of love and that homeostasis, also that feeling of reabsorbing with nature or with the beach, and kind of getting out of your own way to help regulate your own nervous system and engage your dreams and not just be a reactionary creature, but be able to be calm enough to plan out and begin a mission of engagement with the world. And that's also what I want to continue helping people with, and activating their hearts to truly want to live and thrive and, engage their inner child again, those sort of things. So I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel like the energies do push people to do that. Like when the Schumann resonances and the earth resonances are really high and amplified, that's when I want to leave the house. I feel it. It's more earth, almost like more of earth's consciousness is ringing out through me, and I'm acting through it, with her, as her. And I often have a hard time writing articles during the most important times of the study, because I'm so actually engaged with physical life and physically doing things, instead of having that reflective moment on my phone in the quiet spaces of when earth is quiet. But I would love to artificially stimulate, if possible, everybody to one of those love frequencies, if in the states where it's not possible to just naturally shut everything off. If we just go and make everyone's cell phone signal the heart chakra signal, that would be so interesting to me. I would wonder if that would even work for humans, but the levity I think it would feel. And tomorrow, 420, is one of those days naturally that I've felt that levity on the global level as a empath and psychic. It's funny because it's the one day where I feel like I don't have to engage in any substances or do anything out of the box to try and make myself feel better, because I can feel earth doing it. Like the other humans are making time for that day, that meditation, that engagement, that dopamine hit, even like a little extra, a reason to celebrate. But there's no religious connotation. So it's a globally accepted activity. Obviously it's more in the West, but that particular day, that start of Taurus season, that shift into summer, that ride naturally is one of the days I've really noticed a real natural high where we reach those states. And I would love to study that. If I don't even know the equipment that I would need, but I feel like 420 every year is like the most interesting one, until they like internationally legalize this flower. Then it'll probably be less of a potent thing, because that'll like equalize over all the days of the year, potentially. It's something I think about a lot. The frequencies of plant medicines and their impact in the trees and these other beings that deal with frequency, the whales. I get interactions from them as a psychic all the time, and information. The ants, even there's all these different collectives that are also participating in managing the frequencies of earth, I think. And like I said, some of it's natural and some of it's not. And it's weird. Like it's a very weird place. Like it's fantastic the amount of experimenting we actually are allowed to do, it seems like, around here. And the sandbox that we're in is quite forgiving, it seems like, in a lot of sense. And we're tough. But I want to see more heart chakra energy, more greens, more love, more communal understanding. I really hope that 2025 solar cycle, like, we're going to get that. I want to see it, like the evidence. Everyone's just going to be in an amazing mood for some reason. Like, it's just the photons.
Yeah.
It'll work. That's
would,
green.
yeah.
That's the same frequency. So
I want to. Do you have a little bit more time here to ask you a question or two?
okay, well, one more question and then I'll go.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to go a little deeper on your psychic mediumship.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So how has that looked to you, and what do you normally do in relation to your own sort of cultivation of these sort of sensory perceptions?
I think trauma also can cause us to attune to these things more, because to understand the highs, you also need to go into the lows. And sometimes to reach higher highs, you have to hit lower lows.
Mhm.
And I got in a car accident unexpectedly, which for me was bizarre, because I didn't get any hints or anything. And that's not like me. Usually I go through the hologram pretty informed, I would say, about what's going to happen. And I've gotten better at that. But this hit me blindsided, but I had been getting hints that I knew who it was who did it. and how to protect myself after and hypnotize myself to not feel pain.
Mm.
So I had been given that information, but I wasn't given why. So I didn't expect it. But anyway, so I got hit and it broke my nose and it kind of shattered my nose. And that's like that whole area just became really soft and vulnerable. And I had all the bones moving and whatever. So I noticed that kind of actually opened up and allowed more information to actually go right in, and I can perceive it more with my third eye inside. Like it almost like opened up or broke apart something that was helping me. So I'm actually getting better information off of people now. And it was just, it unlocked it. It was like, helped me engage it. It also helped me engage death a little deeper because of that moment of almost dying, because it was a little close for sure. It was like, oh, that was a tricky one. Like I was pissed in a way too. I was like, that was too close. Like, how come I didn't get any help on that? Like, what was that? So I've since figured it out, but it was definitely a deeper like shadow. Like you had to get deep in like that defender, that darkness is matching. It was like my defender was coming through. Like I had to match and protect. And all I wanted to do was make children's books and like be available to like protect children and get them ready for their own skills to activate and stuff. And this whole new generation of children, the being born without needing to get hit in the face to break open their skull and get close to their pineal gland. Like they won't need that kind of activation. They are seeing things. They are more connected. There's less of a veil, it seems like, as the kids are being born lately. But yeah, those skills came in and I just pick up the information off of people. I do one-on-one work. I can get information from your maternal side and your paternal side. I figured out how to separate that, and it is so subtle, the information. It's bizarre. I literally, like you said, brainwaves have to go to like nothing. There's got to be no traffic going on. And then the first thing that comes through, any sort of object, thing, place, whatever, I have to just trust it and offer it to the client. And it always makes sense to them. So I've kind of found that quiet zone with my own brainwaves where I can allow the information to come from their family and their aura, like what's coming out of them. And it works. And I've worked with other women and men who can do this too. And they're even faster at it, I think, than I am. And they're younger. And it's like watching them have a conversation. It's that simple. It's coming right through them. There's not struggle. But I struggle. I can feel it. It'll swell. My head will swell and shrink. I'll feel pressure and tension. When I feel like a lot of information is trying to be said at once, I will feel them touch me. I'll get touched and poked, but it's very, very subtle. Like it's not like a human quite touching me that physical yet, but I assume as I get more comfortable, it'll probably get there. But I will feel like touches on my shirt, air, sounds that, aren't coming from anywhere. And I take it all in and inform it and give the best reflection of what I'm getting off of somebody back to them so they can see what's really prominent and important to tackle at that time. I just say, you're attracted to me as a client. I want to serve you and just give you exactly what you're looking for. Like, what is it that I'm here to show you? What is it that I'm here to channel for you and your health? That's kind of the approach I take. It's like I really want to be of service and allow that to go right back to the person. I'm not trying to take anything from anybody. I just want to help. And I think I can hear things and see and perceive things closer than others can. And that has helped bridge a lot of gaps between people and their family. And it's always so sweet because people expect almost what I'm going to say. I have no idea what I'm saying, but they expect what I'm saying. They've heard it already most of the time. Like a lot of stuff I say to them, they've already heard. So we're already doing it to each other all the time. We're always channeling information and feeding back each other. But to sit down and deliberately have a stranger do it and then you hear all the same stuff, it can be desensitizing, but it is extraordinary to really, on my end, to just do that for someone and it be all right. And I don't know them. And it just goes right over their head because they're in their own little world and they wanted one little answer They've already heard all this. And I'm sitting there like stunned, like, wow, I can't believe I just got all that right about you, random person. And then you do hit them and you get that one little thing. And it's always something usually small. Like my last client, I literally told her to start making her own sandwiches because she was buying Subway sandwiches. And I didn't know that, but that was the message, was like, make your own sandwiches. Like, so it's just random stuff like that sometimes that the messages just get through to you somehow. Like they'll throw somebody like me in your way, your ancestors, to get a message if they need it. Like it's very efficient, and there's more of us available now to be that conduit. It's just I think it's just, and it's a temporary duty. If we all just start developing that skill again, you won't need people like me. You'll get the message from your ancestors loud and clear. There won't be a question. And if there is, your brother, sister, person who you live with will give you like accurate feedback. But right now we're just like combing through a bunch of charlatans and like doubts and cell phone signals and microwaves and like trying to hear messages from our ancestors and stuff. And people have lost their confidence, and it's a lot of lost confidence. Like a lot of people are lost. They don't know where their inheritance is coming from, like even spiritually, energetically. Like they're not sure what to do with their time or how to survive, and a lot of like fish out of water. So that's kind of what I've been helping with, is kind of like putting the fish back in the water. Like here, go swim over here. Like it's okay. The water is safe. Like go in there. It's good. It's your water. Like I feel like people are scared of the spiritual world and their own gifts even. And they try and hide or try and privatize it to someone else. Like spiritual stuff is this person's job in my life. And it's like, no, that's your job. Like I'm just somewhere to bounce ideas off of, like at the end of the day. So that's what I believe. I don't have any other training. It just was natural, and I learned about it a long time ago. 2011, I learned about psychic mediums, and I just wanted to be one ever since because I knew what worked. It helped people realize there is life beyond the veil. There is life beyond death. And that realization, you can't pay money for that feeling. Like I watch psychics or mediums do it, and just like a person realized, holy shit, my dead relative is dead and they're talking to this random strange lady and it's real. So, oh, I'm not alone. Like it's that I didn't get abandoned by this person I love from their death. Like they didn't leave. So that's a good feeling. And I was attracted to that. I wanted to help people feel that feeling, because to lose that awareness is such a horrible pain I feel like we're culturally having in the West. Like that feeling of true loss and like fear, like it's so unnecessary in my opinion. It's a unique experience, but I'm part of that shift to help fix that particular boo-boo. But it's the forgetting is weird.
I love it. I mean, because that's it. It's like show someone something they never experienced before. You don't
Right.
know me. I always get the same answer. How do you even know any of this stuff? You don't know me. You've known me 3 seconds. How the hell did you even find this? Where did you get it from? It's just there's a layered effect that we use to work it out, but I mean, it's the same thing. It's the wow factor. You want to get, a conscious awakening.
Right.
You want to witness it. And I'm totally on board with what you're saying. It gets me excited every time I witness it. It's like, whoa.
It's so cool.
So in closing, the last thing I'm going to ask, because I always ask every guest, what is your definition of consciousness?
The which of consciousness?
Your definition of consciousness.
Okay.
I probably should have said this was the last question, right?
That's a good one. That's a real good one. That's funny. That's real funny. That's a good joke. That's a good one. That's real funny. I'm going to do that to people. I'm going to do that to people now. That's a good one.
Yeah.
The definition of consciousness is all things that I'm capable of defining and more.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love what you're saying, because mine is being aware you have choices.
Great. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. The laughter we can share is consciousness.
Right.
That was a good one, though. Like, literally the most difficult question you can ask somebody.
Yeah, I love that. I always finish with that, and I've never heard the same. I've never heard the same response. One or two people get a little. I think
Close.
they no, they don't get close. They go, "Oh, that's too long for me to answer," but thanks anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, that's your version. I think that's great. However you want to perceive it, it's all up to the individual.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
brilliant. That was good.
Yeah. Well, in closing, I'm going to put all your social media under this.
Okay.
I want everyone to come out and find you, and I want them to look at your social media, your website, check out your psychic medium services.
Sure, yeah.
Get involved with the Schumann resonance communication that you have. You said you have some type of like forum or something that people can get on.
That's right.
Um, yeah.
I have my website, Ascension Diaries, for my sessions with people, but I also have my links to all my other socials on that website too. So that's a good place to start. And then if you have a preferred social media, I'm probably there already. And message me anything, anytime. It's fine. If you need to email me, ascensiondiaries@gmail.com. But yeah, I've moved everything over to Patreon, which is a pay membership website.
Hmm.
And I do a week or a monthly workshop with the Patreon group, and everyone who is paying, and even the free members on my Patreon, they get the updates about any sort of extreme space weather shifts that would be pertinent to the actual study. If you really are interested, which most people are, they're very interested in the study, but catching up to what I'm actually talking about is a little tough. So I have videos on my YouTube for that. So if you're interested in seeing my like theoretical stuff and like kind of the strings I'm drawing to do the study, that's all available already on my YouTube. So feel free to check that out. There's a playlist for that. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. I'm happy to meet new people of all different types of skill sets and backgrounds, and all the cool people that you guys have all met too, like stories. I'm a story collector. So even if you want to tell me something cool, I'd be happy to learn. I need to learn things. I'm definitely in student mode, and teacher mode is just the bonus. I get to post what I've learned. So it's a low drag teacher mode, high speed student mode, right? For sure. In this time, it's exciting. I love the internet. So it's been
Yeah.
a pleasure, and it's been lovely to talk with you today. It's been fun. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your time with me today. It's been really amazing. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. We've created some new friendship that could blossom into anything else. Who knows? I am very
Yes.
grateful that we've resonated at the same frequency, and that's how we ended up here today.
Yep.
And I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today, more than anything. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And I'll see you on the next one, guys.